Hello and welcome to Good Grief podcast, episode 12. You probably notice, well, actually, if you're not watching it, you won't notice, but you'll soon notice when she's not talking. Rosie is not here today. She's sadly poorly, so she hasn't been able to make it. But I have been joined. This was planned. He hasn't just come in to fill in for her, by my good friend Hugh.
Hello.
Who is going to be talking about the passing of his mum. Which is so brave of him. And yeah, I mean, we're going to open the floor to lots of questions. It's great to have another guy on here. I think a new male perspective is just so important for us. But yeah, a bit of kind of context of how we know each other.
Yeah.
I think we've known each other for 3 years now, maybe.
Yeah, probably about that. Yeah.
So are we technically in-laws now?
Close. Very close.
Yeah, we're very close. So this is Harry's sister's boyfriend.
Yes.
So technically brother and sister-in-law.
We'll get there.
And we're going to Capri tomorrow, so that's
Yes.
lovely. So yeah, it'll be a nice little treat after the pod. But introducing you, Hugh, we'll jump straight in with obviously why you're on here.
Yeah. So, 3 years ago, next weekend, October 5th, I lost my mum unexpectedly to a brain aneurysm. It was a lot of people I don't think know very much about brain aneurysms, but it's a kind of swelling of a blood vessel in the brain. It happens suddenly, and it's very difficult to detect. When I was speaking to a doctor about it, they kind of said, you have to know to look for it, and even then it's like finding a needle in a haystack. But this was very unexpected. There were no symptoms. The only symptom that you can have for this is a kind of pain so strong that you just can't move. So it's quite an obvious symptom. You know, if anyone had that, they would go to see a doctor. But yeah, so that happened on the morning, technically, of October 4th. And often what happens with that is essentially a kind of brain death.
Right.
You know, on the day that it happened, the morning that it happened, my dad, when it happened, called called the ambulance. They got him to do CPR until they got there. While that was happening, he gave me a call and asked me to come over. And I kind of turned up by the time the ambulance was already there, and they were kind of going through their stuff, giving oxygen and things like that. I think at the time, I overheard one of the paramedics kind of say, she's not responsive, this isn't good.
Right.
But, you know, when you're in that moment, I think there's that level of denial and
hope as well, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly that. And you know, I was still talking to my mum at the time, even though the eyes were kind of locked distantly. But she was rushed to the hospital. Paramedics were amazing, very quick. Luckily, my mum was quite a small person, 5'4", I want to say, so quite easy to get into the ambulance. No
So it's helpful.
Yeah. It made her coffin very light as well.
So it's good for me for that reason. I mean, I think I'm 5'3", so
be considerate, be small.
Oh, bless her.
But yeah, so rushed to the hospital, and me and my dad started calling. We were in a waiting room essentially, waiting for the consultants to pick it up, but started calling the immediate family, which my house is a very male-dominated house.
Yeah.
It's me, 2 brothers, and my dad, and then my mum had 2 brothers, so just males really.
And that must have been difficult in itself.
Yeah, I think all of us were quite traditionally very kind of stoic. You know, we're not very emotional people. As men often are. You bottle things up, I think, regularly, and you just kind of or laugh about it is, I think, the most common thing in our house.
Yeah.
But an event like that just triggers an automatic response.
Mm.
You know, you just can't help but get into this raw emotion.
Yeah.
And yeah, with the nature of the brain aneurysm, it kind of circles into brain death, as I say. And so we were in the hospital pretty much that whole day, and then told to come back tomorrow. And then when we came back tomorrow, it was pretty much okay, we're basically going to pull the plug. She's not responsive at all, so there's like nothing we can do. She is brain dead at this point. So very sudden for us, and just absolutely taken aback.
And how old was she?
She was, I don't know.
Sorry, am I testing you?
64,
okay.
I want to say.
Yeah, and like fit, healthy, no.
She had, when she was in her 40s, she had a kind of MS.
Right. Okay.
But it didn't spread.
Okay. Which
was good. She kind of had a limp. She had other kind of minor health problems. She had 2 hip replacements on the same hip.
Right.
Because she also had osteoporosis.
Okay.
Which is the weakening of your bones.
Yeah.
And when they put in the first hip replacement, I don't want to too graphic, but they put it in and it broke her femur as they put it in.
My god.
So she had to have a second one. Quite probably
bless her.
But no, relatively the only kind of ongoing health issue you had was kind of slightly elevated blood pressure.
Yeah. Which
she was on a large tablet daily at the time, and that in a way was the kind of, I say brain aneurysms come, but there's still a trigger. They may come from nowhere, but there's still a trigger because, you know, it just something needs to cause it.
Yeah.
And that was likely the swallowing of this blood pressure tablet, because it's quite big. It put a bit of a strain while she was doing it, and then that kind of triggered it. And it was essentially, she was in the bathroom, took it, said to my dad, "I don't feel very good." And 7 seconds later, she was, you know, just gone out cold. Kind of, yeah. It
feels like horrendous that we've just done an episode on health anxiety, because that must be something that you have. I mean, do you have health anxiety after what happened to your mum? Like,
particularly with my dad, on behalf of my dad.
Yeah.
You know, he went from that point to living alone in quite a big house in the country as well, so not like immediate neighbours. And yeah, he's had his own minor health problems. He's all okay at the moment, but yeah, I think there was a big concern on that front. I'm doing a lot better now, but I think for the first probably 2 years, I was always just kind of like, "Are we going out for a bike ride? Can you ping your location on WhatsApp? I want to track you."
Yeah, that's understandable.
Just keep an eye on things and make sure. And I think himself, you know, he's been very aware of his own health anxiety too.
Yeah. And take me back to like before your mum died. So you're a really close family, aren't you?
Super close, yeah.
So you were really close with your mum, weren't you?
Oh, I mean, we would. Our family have had Sunday roast lunches since time began. We're fantastic at it. You'll probably come around and have one at some point.
I haven't yet been invited, which is quite rude.
But super close family.
Right, is that why I haven't made the cut?
Yeah, you'll get it. No, we've always been very, very close.
Yeah.
And you know, she was at the very core of it, of the family.
Yeah.
And when that suddenly gets ripped from you, it's just, what can you do? What do you know? It's just a feeling of an empty shell.
Yeah.
Within your family, it's just some core has just been extracted. You just don't know what to do.
Yeah.
If you're feeling overwhelmed, anxious, or disconnected, you're not alone. I'm Dan Roberts, an internal family systems therapist and trauma healing specialist. I create guided meditations to help you reconnect with your inner calm and compassion. These practices are rooted in internal family systems therapy and are designed to support your healing journey, whether you're new to therapy or have been on this path for a while. You can find my full collection of meditations at danroberts.com or on Insight Timer.
So we've just obviously spoken about your family being really tight. So it's you, your brother, and your dad. Is your brother older or younger than you?
I'm a middle child.
You're
one older, one younger.
Okay. And when that first happened, so you kind of started to speak about talking to people about it. So I remember when Vince died, those first few days of just sitting in silence and it being like deafening. Yeah. I can't imagine what it was like in an all-male household where talking is notoriously difficult usually.
It did, yeah. I think it was only probably the first day or two where there was a lack of talking. Surprisingly, I think because of how my family deal with stuff, I think there was a lot of maybe not an immediate joke about it, but comedy was brought in early on.
Right.
And I think that does tie to like I think my whole family loved to make my mum laugh, so I think that's been going on forever. So I think that kind of continued on.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think in the immediate aftermath, there was, as you say, like a deafening silence, and then it almost kind of we took turns, and one of us would be coping a bit better.
Yeah.
Almost like all the tears were gone. I can now cope a bit better, and they would almost look after the others and try and lighten the mood or find a distraction that would help while the others were kind of suffering a bit more intensely. You've talked before about the waves of emotion, just it happens, and when you're in a close household, because my whole family, my brothers, my dad and my uncle were all in this house for probably 2 weeks. We kind of stayed in a very tight bubble.
Yeah.
Again, this is just all men.
Yeah.
But we cope very well with that, and you know, just keeping that level of supporting each other, I think, and just making sure that we're all doing okay and checking in on each other. And you know, as the wave passes onto somebody else, and you know, you've gone through the first your wave.
Yeah.
You then just look after somebody else while they're.
Yeah, it's convenient, isn't it? Like, I never. Obviously, there's times where you are emotional together, but I always found like we'd all be at different stages at different times, and it's kind of helpful that your brain does that to like allow you to be that emotional support for whoever it is before you then go for it, and you kind of like change roles all the time, don't you?
Yeah. I definitely felt that, and that was even happening, you know, at the hospital. In like within the first day. When she was in there, you know, some of us would be just pure tears, and somebody else, you know, my brother would come over and just hug, or vice versa, or anything like that. So I think it really, it's a great, if you can get, obviously saying if you can get a good support bubble, that's brilliant, but having one is just so helpful.
Yeah,
with
definitely.
The process of grief.
And you're a super affectionate person.
Yeah.
What is your, just to put it lightly, your family, are they very affectionate, and how has the death of your mum changed that, or has it always been kind of the same?
I think I've probably been the most affectionate. I'm sure my family might agree on that.
Yeah.
But no, I think we've all kind of had a different outlook. I think, and everyone's probably become a little bit more close and better equipped, maybe, to deal with grief. Because unfortunately, I've had my dad particularly, we've had a bit of excess grief, if you will, because it went on. I'll mainly be talking about my mum, but following on from my mum, my aunt died from cancer, and then our family dog died, and then my cousin died from cancer, and then my dad's best friend died from cancer. So that was in the span of probably 2.5 years. So, you know, a lot of grief going on in that period. But I think the initial, my mum dying, almost like set us up to cope with grief a bit better on the following on events.
Yeah.
And also helping other people with grief, you know, other family members.
And myself, you've been amazing with me. Like,
thank you.
Yeah.
I just think that's all stemmed from a growing affection and understanding that we've got since my mum's death.
When you first lost your mum, was there a point where you kind of had to sit down and say, we need to talk about this? Was there ever a point where you had to kind of broach the subject, or did that come naturally?
I think it flowed naturally prior to it.
Yeah.
My dad has always been quite he's a talkative man, bless him. And he also has always joked about death. Well, probably for the past like 8 or 10 years. Yeah. He loves joking about it, and you know, he would say now to this day that he always used to think that he would go before my mum. But he would have said that while she was still alive. So, you know, we've always been able to talk about it, probably because he talked about it a lot.
Yeah.
But there was never a point when I felt like we weren't open about it. There may have been some points when maybe somebody would, I don't know, maybe talk about it too much, and you just kind of want a bit breather.
Yeah.
You want a bit of space. You want to just like mental reset.
How would you communicate that?
Good question. I think maybe just if you can talk about it and express that verbally, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
If you can't, and you know, sometimes I found that I was just, you know, in a state where it was unable to, just leave the room.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just walk out.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think when you're in this state and this kind of event has happened to you, I think everyone's fairly understanding, and just you can kind of almost do and get away with what you want.
Yeah.
If that's what you need, you do it.
Yeah, I think people are a lot more lenient, aren't they, at this time? And for anyone who is supporting anyone who's going through grief, like, your emotions are so heightened.
Yeah.
So heightened. So, like, you just kind of have to give them the space that they need.
Yeah.
When you obviously mentioned kind of seeing your mum in that state. How do you kind of deal with that day to day? Because that must have been super traumatic.
Yeah. I mean, I can still picture, you know, seeing my mum in that bathroom, let down with paramedics surrounded her. I think it's probably turned more into almost like a static image rather than like a video of it in my memory.
Yeah.
Which I think is helpful, and I think that's just a time thing.
Okay.
And similarly, just seeing her in a hospital bed full of tubes and everything, and just completely unresponsive. Again, same thing. And you know, people talk about time, and I actually had my dad's best friend who passed away himself from cancer, but probably within a month of my mum dying, he came around, and he grabbed me and my 2 brothers, and he basically said, you know, when you're going through grief of a loved one, and you can hear all the doctors or professionals and everyone just kind of say, well, it takes about a year for your life to get back to normal. And he said, it doesn't. You know, he lost his own parents when he was 30, and he said, I still think about them every day. And that's kind of stuck with me, and sometimes I'll go through a day and I'll think, have I thought about my mum today? Yes, I have, actually. Yeah, I remember now I thought about this and that memory, or I looked at this photograph, and I've turned it into a positive. You know, you want to try and keep a positive on your grieving path. And, you know, photos or positive memories, always keep those with you. And I think that has kind of dulled the traumatic imagery of my mum in the hospital, or, you know, eyes glazed over type thing.
Yeah. So you're 3 years in now, aren't you? And Would you say, like, obviously the pain is still so raw. I'm only 8 months in myself, and I think from my experience, I would say there's more distance between the tears, like the crying. But I know everyone's journey's different. So would you say, like, on a kind of monthly basis, do you get teary about your mum anymore or any?
It's. I think initially it was probably almost non-stop until you run out of tears for maybe like 2 weeks, 3 weeks,
God,
maybe
yeah.
4 weeks.
Yeah.
And then, I agree. It does kind of, the frequency dies down a bit, and you as you're going through, or as I was going through my journey and my family, we all definitely started going less. My dad, I would say, was his own journey in how much he would get teary or break down. Took longer. I mean, he was with my mum for 35 years, so he has known her longer than me and my brothers.
Yeah, that's an incredible marriage.
Yeah, but yeah, I think now 3 years in, it's probably it's hard to put it in exact timings, but maybe like once or twice a month, I'll maybe have like a 5 minute, just kind of like emotional. Oh God, I miss my mum.
Yeah.
Or thinking about something, and
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Sometimes your mind allows you to think of that person, and even the bad things that you remember, the traumatic experiences, but sometimes the tears don't come, but then sometimes you'll look at a picture and you'll be in floods. Like, you can never really predict how you're going to go.
I mean, you had that episode on triggers and things, and you can just, triggers can come from nowhere.
Yeah.
Just at any point down the line, you just, oh God, that is a trigger.
Yeah,
there we go.
Exactly. So when you do get emotional, Hugh, and you're in that mindset, how do you cope? What do you do?
Sometimes, because I think I'm in a way far down the line, and I'm quite outside of my mum passing, I'm in a very positive place myself.
Yeah.
I'm almost into a year-long relationship with the lovely cat. I have a new job.
Just a cat.
Very happy, new job. So relatively, I'm in a positive position most of the time. So I think when it happens now, a lot of the times I'll let it almost just kind of ride out a bit, and just play out, because I know, because I'm in such a good space, it's probably not going to last long before I kind of recover. I think when it gets particularly bad, and I learnt this, I don't know if somebody told me, or I can't recall, but I learnt a technique that really helped early on, probably in like the first week, when you're just unconsolable, just bawling it out, which is essentially just breathing. You just focus on your breathing, you inhale, exhale, nice deep breaths, and that just helps control, and you suddenly realize, I've stopped crying. I can now, all right, I needed to do something which I couldn't do before because I was in a state. Hey, I've controlled it. It's managed now, and I can carry on.
Yeah.
That's really helped, I think. It's something so simple, but it's been very effective for me. And I, mentioned it to my dad. I mentioned, I talked before a little bit about like telling people, and different people have different approaches on how you tell other people about this event, whether it's immediate family or friends or anything like that. And my approach with my friends, telling them that my mum died, was a long text message for the immediate kind of telling. I met up with them later on, and they were fantastic, but the initial thing was big message, don't have to do it on the phone, done. My dad's technique, bless him, was to call people up, and I think in a way that was probably quite helpful for him. He went into a lot of details, and it might have been kind of reliving it, but I feel as though he took some solace that he was going through every detail. He shortened it down eventually, but a lot of the time initially, early on, he would understandably break down while on the phone with these people. And so I gave him this technique of just take some deep breaths when that's happening, breathe it in, breathe it out, and that really helped him kind of just carry on that conversation on the phone.
Yeah, just like re-regulates you, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I think as well, like you just mentioned, I remember when Vince first passed, so he was my uncle saw everything because he was playing football with him. And when I was around my auntie's house with the week after, she said to some of my cousins and my sisters and everyone, I know all the details. Do you want to hear about it? If you do, come in the kitchen with me. If you don't, stay in here. And for me, I found hearing out loud almost helps you, because sometimes your mind wanders, and I wonder whether your dad, having been through that and doing CPR, it brings it to reality, and not that you want it to be reality, but it kind of just like validates you in that way.
Well, I agree. I think some people, it could be very helpful to hear. Other people won't want to hear it. That's fine.
Yeah.
But for him, I think it and I was present in a lot of those calls, so it also kind of drilled into me and helped validate, I think, my end too.
Yeah. Your mind does wander otherwise, doesn't it?
Yeah, and you also get a lot of kind of, I think, what ifs. That happens a lot. What if we were able to take what if she didn't take that pill that morning?
Yeah.
That type of thing. And I think
what ifs are awful.
Oh yeah. But I think maybe, and again, not for everyone, but maybe just talking it through the actual event helps factualize it and just kind of go, don't think about the what ifs. This is what happened. No, don't ignore the rest,
Yeah, and ultimately, I think I'm throwing a stat here, but I think it's like 13% chance of surviving in hospital, like a cardiac arrest, or any, like for Vince, for example, like I was thinking about my mum, she went through the what ifs, and he had a defib within minutes, he had paramedics, and for your mum, like what she went through was so significant, whether she was in hospital or near a hospital, whatever, I'm sure it still would have been the same situation. And like that's so hard, because your mind is really cruel to you in that way, isn't it? But I think that's such a natural thing that everyone grieves goes through. You spoke a little bit before about like being a role model. I want you to go into that in more detail.
I use that in a loose term. Only in the sense that I think when you're reaching a certain age, you get your first wave almost of grief, I think, traditionally, with your grandparents passing away.
Yeah.
And then you hit the next milestone, if you want to talk about it, which is then your parents passing away. And then the one after that is normally your friends and partner passing away. And I feel as though, because maybe I had my mum, although a bit older than some of my other friends' parents, she was still young enough that I was probably one of the first people, I think, of my friends that I can recall whose immediate parent passed. And so following on from that, I had, I think within a year, another one of my friends reached out to me and said, "Hey, how you getting on? Funny thing, my mum has also just passed from a brain aneurysm out of the blue." And you go, "Oh, damn."
Really?
Yeah. That happened twice in 2 years.
What, both with aneurysms?
Both with brain aneurysms, yes.
What?
Which is just mind-boggling, because I know, the grief anxiety you're talking about before, and I've said brain aneurysms are sudden, very undetectable. They're also very rare.
Yeah.
And I don't want people thinking, I need to be afraid of a brain aneurysm, because they are very rare. But that was just surprising. But yeah, they would approach me typically by message or phone call and just be like, "Hey, I'm having a rough time. Just want to let you know." And some people have asked for advice or how to cope. When you're talking about something that you've got a similar experience share with, you've said yourselves and Rose as well, that everyone's got their unique experience and journey they go on.
Yeah.
But you can, in some instances, relate a bit in terms of, like, as you said, traumatic death, or a sudden traumatic death, or the more long-standing one that you often get with cancers. And I think, it brings back sometimes when somebody approaches you about their own experience they've just had. And it does re-hit you quite hard. I mean, when I saw you after you lost Vince, and seeing the condition you were in, and a flood of memories obviously came back for myself. And although I may have seemed supportive, I was also kind of re-hit with a bit of emotion there.
Yeah.
That kind of...
I remember so well. I think it's when we went to that football match in his memory, and we had a few drinks, and Walk in Memphis came on the jukebox because Harry thought it would be a good idea to put it on everyone's nasty state. And I remember you driving me home, and I was an absolute state. And at the time, when I got back, I was upset as well, and I said, I don't know if I'm going to upset Hugh, because I just was very aware of it brings up a lot when other people are so emotional, and when you see someone going through the start of grief and how raw it is, it must bring up so much of what you went through and all those awful memories.
It does, and it did, in the instance of yourself and Vince. But I think almost at that point, perhaps because I was 2 years in, I'm not sure exactly when, but I felt as though, yes, going through it, but I could put your need for consoling and comfort, that can come first. I can be utterly teary because I'm reliving some stuff for myself, but still be there for a hug, and be there for you.
You're lovely, that's why.
Thank you.
No, I think it's... Yeah, I had the same kind of thing when Vince passed. One of Charlie's friends actually lost his dad, and he reached out to me and was like... Because he lost his dad a few years ago, I think. And just to kind of relate and be like, I'm here. And it's really comforting, as we've said, to have people reach out, especially if they've lost someone in a similar way. I think that's probably really, I don't know, just must feel so bizarre, but it is also confronting and hard. It's a mix, as you often get with this type of thing. There's a whole well of emotions that just springs out. But you do, I think, for the most part, time does help. People say that a lot. It does. And I can quite comfortably talk about almost every element at this point without welling up. There will still be some things that will get me, for sure. But most of it is I'm comfortable discussing at my stage in grief. Yeah, I think it's amazing you can come on here today to talk about it. I think when people say time's a healer and time helps, it's maybe not that it helps, but it's that you learn to live without that person, don't you? And
that's a better way.
You're I don't know, you still, obviously the pain will never change. It's always still so raw, but you learn so much about yourself on this journey, don't you? And you kind of it just eases a little bit when you think about them. Speaking of learnings on this journey, what would you say you've learned about yourself as a griever?
Wow, what a deep cutting question. I think I've learned that a fundamental thing that I've learned, and I would love to share with people, is don't feel any form of shame. If you're in a hospital going through some form of grief, something's happened, or you're in public setting, or even with your friends or family, don't feel shame about just breaking down and crying.
Love that. Yeah.
Everyone's going to go through their own form. People will tackle it differently, sure, but it's such a raw emotion. You can't suddenly just feel like I shouldn't be crying, I'm in public, or I don't want other people to think I'm too bad right now. Go through it.
Just don't do it in Sri Lanka and people think you're getting kidnapped by your husband.
Or do, it depends on your relationship. It's up to you.
No, but I so agree. I think I said it a couple of weeks ago, but I think there's such a false narrative and perception that breaking down makes you weak. It actually makes you strong. If you have the courage to show emotion, and if you're going through something so significant that you need to allow yourself to be emotional, that isn't a sign of weakness. I know. I definitely agree. The other thing is, I think
it's not really a lesson about myself. It's more just a lesson is organ donation, which is a strange segue to get into.
There we go.
But it was just something that some people will have had to check a box when they're, when you. I think now it might be you automatically put on it and you have to opt out.
Yeah.
But before you would automatically, you would have to push it yourself. I did mine when I think I signed up to be a blood donor, and they kind of, say, hey, would you? Blah, blah. But it's often that you do it and then you don't think about it. And, in the case of my mum, I remember filling it in when, with her, I was doing mine, she was doing hers. And, hadn't thought about it since then. And then it came up on the day of her death, or, the morning before they pulled the plugs, is she an organ donor? Because with organ donation, they need the body to be in almost like a healthy state. Right. You can't, as nice as it would be to be able to take any organs, things have to be healthy to go to somebody to make them healthier. Yeah. That's often the case with brain death, because they kind of keep the rest of the body alive, as long as the rest of the organs are fine, as long as they're not smoking, they've damaged the lungs, all that kind of stuff. And that we were approached by what do they call it? NHS Blood and Transplant while we were in the hospital. And they came in. They do get the family's permission, even if somebody has already said that they want to donate organs. And we had that happen, and the guy was absolutely lovely. Fantastic. I can't remember his name, but he was a wonderful person. He talked us through it, the process, what they can take, and then we basically agreed on to it. It was my mum's request. He then came back about 10 minutes later and goes, she was quite keen on this, because she apparently filled in the form twice. So awesome. Very keen on the organ donation. And they managed to get liver and lung, I think I want to say. And just in the process of that, again, I don't think it's a very talked about topic, but when they take those parts, they go to somebody. They have to remain anonymous, because you don't want families saying, give me my wife's kidney.
Yeah.
But the recipients have an opportunity, if they choose to, which is entirely on them, to then write to the donor's family a letter, which is passed across. And about 2 years after my mum's passing, we got a letter from a guy named Stephen, which is also my dad's name, so a little confusing, with a picture of him, basically just expressing uttermost thanks and talking about himself, which is the most wonderful thing. Just saying what he likes to do, what his family that he loves, and activities that he enjoys doing, and it was absolutely sweet. And then we were then able to send a letter back, so it's quite a nice. It's something so positive that you can take out from such a traumatic event.
And creds to your mum, that is amazing that she's saved another person's life.
I know. So some of the waiting lists are huge. People. It's unfortunate where we are. You can't sell organs here in the UK, but
probably can on the dot.
But there's a lot of big waiting lists, and as I say, I think now you have to opt out yourself. Which is good. I think that's a good system to have.
Yeah, definitely.
But you'll still, as a family member or partner, you will still be approached if somebody and they will still seek your opinion or your agreement to go through with it. And I would just kind of say, I know it can be very difficult to think, eyes was one that was quite...
Vince always used to say that eyes would.
It's strange, but it's not actually the entire eye. It's like a bit of it kind of thing when they do actually take it. But They couldn't take my mum's because she had laser eye surgery.
Oh, really?
But yeah, if you do get asked, don't immediately dismiss it. Well, do if you want to, but do have a think about it.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe before, if you know there's somebody's passing coming up, you can talk to them about it as well, or talk to your own partners if you die and think, I definitely want my organs gone.
Yeah, that's amazing. And like, yeah, I mean, I guess it's that just knowing that you've given back even when you've passed.
Yeah.
What an incredible woman your mum was.
She was fantastic.
Aww.
She got on with everyone. I think, you know, not everyone gets it, but when you have a funeral wake like Vince did that has a huge number of people, you're like, yeah, they've had a positive impact on so many people.
Yeah, exactly.
It's wonderful.
So reassuring. That's lovely, and I think it's such a good point that we haven't raised before about organ donation, and I think such an important message, and definitely something for the listeners to consider. To finish off, well, first of all, do you have anything else you want to talk about first? Cutting you off.
No, I mean, I'm happy to talk about anything, but and I could talk about this type of stuff for days.
Fortunately, we haven't got days.
No, I know.
We're actually going to Italy tomorrow. I'd like to remind you.
Good point. Yeah, early flight too. No, I've nothing else to bring up now.
Cool, because I wanted to ask you as a last question.
Mm-hmm.
Being someone that has a penis.
Yeah, check.
Well, obviously, it doesn't mean that you're a male if you have a penis. But the point is, as a man who is talking to other people who've been through loss in any way, so whether it be bereavement or a loss of relationship, what is your advice to people who are a bit more shy to kind of talk?
It's a good one. I think find something, if you can find something that you are comfortable talking about. You know, with my family, as I said at the start, it was humour, it was comedy. You know, my older brother recently was talking about how in the first stages of his immediate grief, he just found himself, when he was huge amount of tears, he'd be crying non-stop, and then he'd just kind of have a sudden realisation, I've never cried while taking a shit before. You know, and if you can tell someone that,
yeah,
that's fine. That might help bridge a gap of talking about it that you may have been unable to do before. But there'll be other ways, you know, memories or things like that. I think men in general do have a problem with communication, and I think a lot of them will probably relate to humour as a kind of way in. But just find whatever you can. I mean, you know, my dad uses humour, but he also will use memories and photographs. You know, we are fortunate enough to have a wealth of like 100,000 pictures of my mum. And so he will regularly share pictures and talk about the memory, or talk about that kind of stuff just as a way in, I think a lot. So I think that's a great one too.
Good. Just encouraging people to talk. I think it's so
talking
important.
is very good.
Yeah, I think especially I think it was it Suicide Prevention Week in September. I've seen a lot of like the football videos come out, and I think it's just even more important in this day and age, I guess. Well, it always has been, but I just feel like it's increasing in terms of numbers, and I
friends and family, I think particularly, they want to help where they can.
Yeah.
You know, when in the immediate aftermath, I had my family were my support bubble, and as I say, I messaged friends about it, and they were very patient. They were checking in. You've talked about that before, and then eventually, when I was comfortable enough to see them, they do want to be there. And my friend Tom expressed himself like he was devastated that there was nothing that he could do. They ended up sorting out a hamper that had food and beer in it, which was perfect. But yeah, people want to help, and the first step is you have to approach them maybe to talk about it, because they don't want to tread on anything. I think is a common one.
Yeah, definitely. Wow, what an episode. Thank you so much for being vulnerable, brave, talking, and yeah, like just honouring your mum and the beautiful lady she was.
Always
She'd
happy
be
to do
super
that.
proud.
I know. She's a wonderful woman.
Oh,
Bless her.
bless you. But yeah, thank you so much, Hugh.
Thank you for doing this. You know, when you talked about this as a concept, I thought it was a fantastic idea. You know,
Oh,
I think it's going really well, and people appreciate it.
ah, nice. Cool. Well, thank you again for listening, guys. Episode 12. I can't wait till we hit the 20 mark. We were saying actually, me, Jam, and Rose need to do like a intro app. Just to be like, hi. Like, I know you know all of our deepest, darkest secrets, but this is actually like who we are.
Yeah.
So we might do that on like episode 15 or 20. But anyway, besides the point. But yeah, thank you again for coming on, Hugh. You
Pleasure.
absolute legend.
Thank you.
And have a great week, guys.
Yeah.
See you later.
Bye.